I
All right.
turned 54 in June. I think, are we the same age?
I'm March 31st. So you were born in 70.
Yeah.
Wow. That's yeah, when I first saw you, I don't know, it was probably about a year ago in RVA, but I wasn't really paying attention because I watch a lot of YouTube. But then
Same here.
lately I was watching some of your classes in sword and I'm like, wow. Um, what attracted me was you have a martial art background, and of course we're obsessed with swords, I think both of us. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this guy really, maybe it's because you're from New Jersey, I'm from Massachusetts originally. I'm like, there's something about him that really, it's like we're like kin or something. He speaks, the way you present things on the internet, I really like. Your knowledge is fantastic, and your sense of humor, I loved at the sight of it. I was just like, I gotta talk to this guy because and then I found out you did like Bujinkan and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like we're brothers, you know? So I
Yeah, I met you a long time ago. I started in 83 when you started. So or close to when you started. So I think I met you a couple times. Because I watched one of your videos recently and I saw you had posted some pictures of you when you were very, very young. I
Yeah.
think you were wearing a white belt. And I
Oh yeah.
remember talking to you at it was either the Warrior Quest or one of the summits. But I remember talking to you. So it was pretty funny.
Wow. I'm sorry, I don't remember, but
I know. It's like now I'm bald and we're old. So
me
it's like
too.
time
Yeah,
flies.
I tell this the kids in our class. I say you got to do your back roll right, or you get a bald spot like me, and they all laugh. I'm like, don't ever roll over your head and neck, roll over your shoulder, and they just giggle. But they think it's real. They're like, will I really go bald? I'm like, yeah, if you don't back roll right, you'll go bald, and it gets them rolling well. Well, so you
It's funny.
start, when did you start like interest in martial arts? Were you just a little kid? Like, did you watch television shows like I did?
Yeah, I'm from South Jersey near Philly. I grew up in Camden, New Jersey, which is a pretty rough area. And I started studying martial arts. My father studied some Korean martial arts, Chung Do Kwan, Mudo Kwan, sort of like, I guess, Taekwondo variants. And we started very, very early, probably around 5 years old, which would be
Wow.
1975.
Yeah.
And then I got into Shitoryu Karate Do. I got really into Karate Do. I did Demuraha Shitoryu for a while. I think I attained Sandan in that. But back then, it was very different than, say, like a kids oriented class now. So back then, the kids and the adults took the same class together. And then the after the warm up, whatever, the kids would be separated with a senior instructor. So it was very different. So you kind of learned, you watched how the adults did things. You're like, okay, I do this. It was very, very different. Then I did Goju-Ryu Karate Do for a while. And then 1980 hit. I was 10 years old like you. And then Shogun hit, Budo, the Art of Killing documentary came
Oh
out.
yeah. Isn't that great? Oh.
I watch that every day. I'm not even joking, dude. Every day.
Is
Every
it
day.
is it piping through the RVA TV screen? Yeah.
Actually, it is because I cut out all the sword parts and made a looping 15-minute
Oh,
video.
nice.
But I got to tell you, when customers come in and they see that, they are like, "Whoa!" And they just freeze and they watch it. I'm like, "That's right." In 1980, when I was 10, I was exactly where you are, going like, "Whoa!"
I'll tell you
Um,
that scared the hell out of me as a kid. The way the music's a little ominous in it, and the way that they presented it was like death, death, death. I'm like, this is scary, but I want to do it. Where do I do this? I
I mean, it
love.
started with the seppuku scene. I mean, come on.
Yes. Oh, I remember that. Yes, and I think it might have ended with it too. It was just, it was kind of a horror show, but I was like, I need to look into this because it's scaring the hell out of me as a kid, and I want to do this.
Yeah, it ended with Nakamura Taisaburo cutting a dude's head off. Or it was cutting off Obata Toshishiro's head, believe it or not.
Oh my God. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember he was cutting tatami, wasn't he? And then they just cut to the head.
They were cutting tatami, they were cutting goza at a field near our house. My wife's Japanese, so our home is near Mount Fuji, and
Wow.
that field where they filmed that, I trained in that same field, which is kind of cool because
Oh yeah.
I look back and I'm like, in 1980, this is where Nakayama was cutting stuff and cutting bamboo the same. It's kind of cool.
Do you remember David Carradine? Like, do you remember things before Shogun?
Of
I
course,
remember Kung Fu. Yeah.
Billy Jack, Kung Fu. Billy Jack was a big one on really impacted me. Um, And I loved all the everything. Jim Kelly, the Black Samurai. I loved all of it. Of course, the Big Brawl and all the Bruce Lee movies that really impacted me. My father was really into martial arts, and I remember on Friday nights we go to the VHS rental place and like get eight
Yeah.
movies just through the weekend. We just binge them. We train martial arts and we'd watch the movies, and it just really impacted me heavily at 10 years old. Yeah, I played Dungeons and Dragons, was in all the games that everybody else was
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
at the time. So I had that fantasy mind. And then Enter the Ninja came out, and that just was like game over.
You remember is it the Shaw Brother movies that were imported, all the Kung Fu movies on Saturday mornings? We
Oh
used to
yeah, the
watch
Golden
those.
Harvest. Yeah.
We'd watch those every Saturday, and then me and my brother would go out back and beat the hell out of each other and make like the sound effects of the capes and things. And I would cut off my father's golf clubs. I cut the iron heads off to make swords. Yeah, the first memory I remember was Shogun, and watching the new one, I'm sure we can talk about that too. I can't even compare them. They're just completely different to me.
They are
And
completely different. Yeah, we watched them. They're completely. My wife had never seen them, so I mean, so we just watched the original, and then we watched the new one. She's like, "Holy mackerel, that's unbelievable!" But after Shogun really got me into kind of on that trek, getting out of Gendai Budo and moving more towards Koryu. So I really started hard around 83, early 84 into Koryu, and I've been involved in Koryu ever since. I haven't done any Gendai Budo, so that's kind of been my passion.
yeah, me too. I mean, when I saw Shogun, I was just so attracted to the culture. I'm like, I should have been born in the 16th century. Now that I'm older, I'm like, I would never want to be in that time. You don't have air conditioning and showers and things, but now I look back and I see the new Shogun, and I can't. It's still taking me a long time to take the characters' faces off from the old one. Like I'm always going to see Mifune as Toranaga and Chamberlain as Black.
It's hard. Tadanobu Asano did really, really good as Yabashige. And oh my gosh, Anasawa is Mariko-san. I like she's got some grit. She's a Toda. I
Yes,
like that she's be quiet. She's like you refer to me as Mariko-sama. I was like, whoa, I
yes,
really
yeah.
yeah.
I'm curious to see where the story arc goes because I'm only two in. Um, I have some just one qualm is the lead actor I'm not a fan of yet, only because I found him unlikable so far compared to Jay. Again, I'm comparing everything to the old. So if for those watching, if you've seen only the new, you're gonna love him. But there was something throwing me off about like I think he was wearing blue contact lenses because I think he's brown-eyed, and his voice was so deep. I don't know if it was dubbed or not, but it was really throwing me off. I'm like, I'm not liking this guy yet. But again, I don't know the story arc, so he could be very likable coming up. There's a lot more to go. So I'm being open-minded, but I was like, where's Richard Chamberlain? Even though he was a little goofy, I don't know what it is about that.
Hard to beat. He has a presence. And it seemed like they rushed some of the early character development because the interchange between Rodriguez and Anjin San seemed to be a little more in depth in the original, and the prison scene just seemed really, really short.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but hopefully they'll elaborate on it. They may have spent more money and time on something that they passed over on the first series. So
I have
I'll reserve my review for the whole thing till I'm finished episode 10.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm so impressed with just the care and quality that's gone into this one. You can just tell it's Japanese run, and it really, I'm so impressed with everything so far. The language, and again, I'm having to relearn all the different characters' names because I'm like, that's not Rodriguez and that's not Father Alvito, but I have to really separate that. I think it's actually a burden for you and I who have watched both to give for me an honest comparison because nothing is ever going to replace my love for the first because we were 10.
Yeah. Yeah, we were 10 years old, and Omi-san was a very different, brutal. Like I hope they don't mess up Buntoro. Buntoro, the character that played Buntoro in the
Oh,
original, his face was so strong, and he was very fearful. So I
yeah.
hope they nailed that with the new guy. We'll see.
Yeah, the Buntaro,
See you tomorrow.
they've only shown him just for 1 minute, right? When he was sitting for dinner and kind of
Yeah.
insulting the boy. Yeah, the old again scared the heck out of me. And I never met him, but he looked like Takamatsu. his face, and the way they
They
did
didn't-
that arrow scene. I hope they put that arrow scene, and that was so impressive.
Yeah, that's an iconic scene. They had to do that also with the urinating on Anjin's back. I thought that was we couldn't pass that one up either. So I'm happy they didn't.
So when you saw this in 1980, did you immediately go out and change? You said you changed your martial art. Um, were you
Yeah.
looking for something more samurai and
Yeah,
back
I was looking. Yeah, I was
go
looking
ahead.
for something ninja samurai oriented. It was the 80s and the whole ninja concept broke out.
Yeah.
And this is before the Ninja Turtles and all that stuff. So this is before all the popular media. And this is no internet. Phones were still in bags, I think. Um, so we just whatever information we got. Andy Adams wrote that book, Ninja: The
Yep.
Invisible Assassins.
Yeah.
So I got his book, and then they had the I found out about Stephen Hayes' thing in Kettering or in Germantown, and there was a training group where I lived, and we went out to the barn several times, and I did a couple of the Warrior Quests. I did the first summit, and we know where Tetsuya Higuchi, James Luriega, Robert
All the
Bussey, and
guys from the magazine. Yeah,
yeah, Ninja Magazine was huge
it
for
was.
me. That really,
Yeah.
it blew me away. And I mean, at that time I was 12, 13 years old in 83. And that just, I was like, I got to find this. So I managed to get in a training group, and the rest is history. So I was in the Bujinkan till 98. So I got my Godan in 1993 at only 23 years old.
Mm.
I really won it, but I had a situation where I had a teacher who had his thumb in my back, and I had several other high-ranking individuals that were like, Scott, you're ready for this. We'll vouch for you. You got this. And so had a really, really good Godan test, and I was kind of free and clear on my own. And I didn't want any more rank. I felt like Godan was like a size 20 shoe I would maybe one day grow into, because
Yeah.
at 20 years old, most of the Godan I had met were like much, much older than me. And I was very immature. And growing up in New Jersey, you know, we fought with our taijutsu. It was very, very different. And I had a couple of instructors in the United States that were really, really influential on me. But I trained with Manaka Sensei the most. He was my teacher when I was in Bujinkan. But I left in '98, and I just was kind of dismayed at the politics and just the rank mongering, and more importantly, the empire building. You should get your dojo under my dojo. And I just got, it's going to happen to any organization, but I got so soured on it that I just stepped back. And I had a dojo of over 80 some students, and I didn't know
Wow.
what I was going to do. And so I went to the Genbukan. Tanamura Sensei had a big Taikai in New York in 1998. I was invited to that, and I went, and I was blown away. Originally, as I got older, I really wanted Menkyo Kaiden in one or two of the Ruha. And when Hatsumi Sensei kind of created this Gendai Budo of Budo Taijutsu, you're not really studying these individual Ruha. You're studying,
Mm.
I will always say, if you take these 9 Ruha and put them in a stream and dam it up, when you open the sluice gate, what comes out? That's Budo Taijutsu, right? So I kind of wanted what the Japanese wanted. I was going to Japan at the time. I wanted Menkyo Kaiden, and Hatsumi Sensei wasn't offering that. And things had changed. It became, these Taikai were like social engagements and less training, and you're spending $600-700 for 3 days or 4 days of training, and you're getting like maybe 2 hours of training, and the rest is like this social thing. And I was really dismayed by that. And I'd already been speaking Japanese at that point. So I was like, you know what? I stepped back. A lot of my friends had left for the same purpose, reasoning, and gone to the Genbukan. So I was like, maybe I'll check this out. From the Bujinkan side, we were always taught it's the dark side, but I'm like, I just want to learn about it. And Tanamura Sensei took me in, and it was really, really amazing. I had a great period of time there. I never quite moved all of my score into the Genbukan, because after a short period of time, that organizational issue reared its ugly head, and I got really, really, I guess, wishy-washy. I wasn't sure if this is something I wanted to continue with, so I broke away from that. But the cool thing was Tanamura Sensei was offering Menkyo Kaiden in a particular Ruha. So if you're at least a Yondang, you could pick a Ruha, Gyokoryu or his line of Kukushin Denryu, and you could get Menkyo Kaiden, because he had Menkyo Kaiden. And so that really was like, that's what I wanted. At the end of the day, that's what I wanted. And I didn't want something encapsulated for Americans. I wanted what the Japanese got. I wanted to get as close to that. But then when I realized that wasn't happening, I kind of left that. And then I found out that Manaka Sensei had left and created the Jinenkan. So I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, maybe this, Manaka Sensei was my teacher. Maybe this is the right fit. So I started to make moves to do that. And I think I even prematurely announced this is the way I'm going. But then I realized that Manaka Sensei was kind of building an organization from the ground up, was really teaching at a very, very fundamental level, which of course makes sense, but I really wanted more from it. So I didn't end up following that, So there's a time where I had gone through all the ex-con, the Bujinkan, Genkan, and got a chance to see each of those organizations from a different perspective. And it really helped me to understand a greater whole. I appreciated each one a little differently. Or appreciate the whole art more, seeing it from different vantage points. But I kind of got away from that and started to go just more Koryu. So I started training with Tanaka Fumon Sensei in Osaka in Koden Enshinru Suimonogiri Kempo. And I did that for quite a long time. And then I broke off because they're only teaching 60% of the curriculum to Americans, which really was off-putting to me.
Why is that?
It's just straight up racism. I wish I could say it any other way, but there's individuals within their organization. Now his daughter is running the organization. She's Soke, and there's some disdain for Americans, and I get it. There's some nationalism in there, harkening back from World War II. And when I found out that I would, much of the curriculum would be withheld from me, but not from Spaniards from Spain or anywhere else, just from Americans, I was like, you know what? So, and I get it. It's not illegal to be the way you are, but I'm not going to spend any time, energy, effort with you. And I'm traveling from United States to Japan and doing uchideshi and all this stuff. And this is how you're going to do it. So I kind of walked from that and kind of.
I wonder if they must have thought you had a secret black ship going to Macau.
Must have been it.
They gave all the knowledge to Rodriguez.
But Takafumon has a line at the Minaki Den for Kukishinru Bojutsu, and I was really, really interested in that. In the Bujinkan, I know a lot of people in the Koryu community snub a lot of the arts in the Bujinkan for authenticity, but there's 4 incredible arts in the Bujinkan. Gyokoryu obviously came to Japan in 1944, formulated in 1136. That's Heian period, baby. That's pretty darn old.
Yeah.
When most historians like Carl Friday say most Koryu Buge started right around the 1400s, we have codified Ruha way before that. And then you've got Kukishin Denru, the Kukishin line. Anything coming out of Kukishin is probably the best Bojutsu on the planet, period. And of course, Shindan Fuduru and Tagagi Yoshinru are just amazing martial arts. So there's amazing Koryu. You just have to wade through some of the stuff to get to it. And sometimes that can become a little difficult. But when I found out there were many other lines of these Ruha, I just seeked training in the other line. And that kind of what drew me to Tanaka Fumon Sensei was the Kukishinru Bojutsu. The Koden Enshinru Suimonogiri, the EI, was pretty interesting, but I've never been really like a big sword guy, to tell you the truth. I'm a big naginata and bow guy. And those are my big weapons. Sword, I think I'm proficient. I'm left-handed, so
me too.
Are you? Wow, that's so funny.
Yeah, it was and I used to get scolded constantly because when you learn, you just picked it up, put it in your left hand dominant, and I learned that for it seemed like 2 or 3 years out in the cornfields and stuff, no instruction, and then my teacher, Mark Davis in Boston, when I showed him, he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "It's lefty." He said, "No, you have to use it righty." So now I feel probably like you. I feel very ambidextrous. As a matter of fact, my right's far better with the sword than my left. But if I throw it to my left, I'm like, "Ooh, this feels good too."
That's funny. I'm the same exact way. And I know Mark Davis. Mark's amazing.
He's great. Yeah,
I've known Mark for a long, long time. I haven't seen him in decades. But when I trained with Tanaka Fumon Sensei, I did kengaku, which is viewing training. In Japan, you can't just show up to a class and exchange money for lessons like you do here in the West. You have to be invited. Someone has to vouch for you. You have to email them. And you may have to do that whole process 3 times before they may allow you. And when you're there, you have to ask questions, and they're watching you, how you're watching them. And you better not be on your phone. You better be watching. You better be sitting in seiza. It's kind of really focused. But they train outdoors at shrines, and he had said something about how was your drawing? I was like, I can draw pretty quick. So he had me draw he said, show me. So I drew with my right hand, and I was okay, not wicked fast, but I was okay. He said, well, today we're going to do something different. Today we're going to draw with our left hand. What do you think about that? I'm like, yeah, I can do that too. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Show me. And I drew with my left hand like 10 times faster.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing some of the students go, what? So, and then we did and it didn't occur to him that I was left-handed because I was able to do everything with my right. So we were throwing bow shuriken. At the end of the class, he asked me if I wanted to throw some bow shuriken with them. And they set up a piece of tatami against a tree. and we're throwing the farthest I could throw with my right hand at that time was 6 feet. So he
Mm.
gave me some from 6 feet, and I knocked them all in. And I said, I can throw with my left too. And they're like, show me. And I stepped back even further and started sinking with my left. And they're like, okay, we're getting trolled. What's going on?
Do you throw dominant left now? Like if I threw you some, I do. I throw dominant left just because it.
For us, it's better with the sword. With the
Yeah,
sword,
yeah,
the left. So it's and just with the sword, your power comes from the left hand for cutting.
yeah.
So once we wade through, I think, the difficult elements, we have the Kion under our belts. We wind up becoming stronger in certain aspects because of that left-handedness, So, but it was a great experience, and that was, I started training with them for quite a long time.
Yeah, when I found the Bujinkan, it was obviously through Mr. Hayes of the Shadows of Iga. I don't know what year that was 83, 84. And then
Yeah.
did you all always get the Musubi journals from Mr. Hayes? And
Oh yeah, I got the Musubi. Yeah, I got the Musubi, and his Stephen Hayes had another Shadows of Iga newsletter. I can't remember what it was called before Musubi. He had them.
Ninja Realm.
Yeah, Ninja Realms. Yeah,
Ninja Realm. Yeah.
yeah.
I still have them. That was our only communication. I try to tell my younger students that look, when they come in, kind of, not very few of them, but sometimes they come in and I'm like, it's convenient because we're here, we're local. I'm like, you have no idea what we used to go through. Talk about uphill to school in the snow both ways. We had to fly in a plane and I had to drive 1,000 miles at age 15 to get 1 page of notes. And then you go home and you would train with trees and cornstalk because there were no students around, no dojos. Mark's dojo was an hour away. When I joined that at like age 16, I was driving 1 hour each to Boston during traffic at 5. You'd leave at 3, you'd be home at 9 or 10 at night. Had my car broken into like 4 times because our dojo in Boston would change all the time because we didn't have a set dojo. Mark would just rent, like at the YMCA in Roxbury and stuff, but we'd bounce around, and that's the training that you got. And there was no Ryuha or anything. It was just do this, do that. Mr. Hayes showed this, let's work on this. And of course, Mark now is so great, but back then I was so young.
You remember kill shots?
Oh yeah, I remember going home and we train on cement. That your ukemi, you didn't have mats or anything beautiful. You go home
right.
all bruised up, and my parents would be like, "What are they doing to you there?" I said, "I don't know, Mom, but I'm going back tomorrow. I was covered with bruises." Why? What are they beating you? I said, "Yes," and I love it. I remember the first class I went to, Mark, we were doing knife training, and he was just hitting me with this wooden knife, and I couldn't hit him. He was like a ghost, and that was, God, 40 years ago, whatever it was. And I was just getting
40
beat.
years ago. 40
But
years ago.
that's how we started. We started as training dummies. And again, when you're 15, you don't know any different, and you're just attracted to this world of pain. I tell my students, look, if you're going to train, you need to become friends with pain because life is pain. And when I started Toshindo, when Mr. Hayes created that, I think it was 96, 97, that's what attracted me. The man himself attracted me with all his books and things. And again, I was seeing Richard Chamberlain and Mr. Hayes, you can see. And then I went off into the Toshindo era, and I left Bujinkan, came back to it after I left Toshindo in like 2007, after my, I think, third Dan. And then I missed the old days. So it's really weird where I'm coming from because my dojo does everything. There's no politics, there's no factions. I welcome everybody. And we have other martial arts that come in and train as well. Like if you live close, I'd be like, we have to have you here to train and teach us something. So we adopt jujitsu, we adopt karate, aikido. If it's good, I think you'll agree that I steal it and take it. That's what the ninja would have done. And I try to remain close to Mr. Hayes, but I also have Bujinkan teachers like Arno and others that I'm close to as well. Because I think the older you get, you want to go back home. And Mr. Hayes,
That's so true. Yeah,
I
left it.
I miss the depth of the schools. I have 6 different references I use when I'm teaching because they all contradict, and I have to go through and find out and interpret what's the point. Why do 5 teachers have 5 ways of doing yokuto or whatever it is? And the attraction to go back to it was the fact of the depth of these schools. With Kukishin, you could spend 10 lifetimes on. I was just blown away at the depth that I wasn't seeing when I did another martial art. And I find like you were talking about, you went through the different Genbukan and Jinen-kan. I did too. My students ask, why do you think that there are so many dojos around? I'm like, it's ego. Look at the Edo period when everyone lost their job, they created schools. Why is it in Iaido that there are all these 15 different moves on how to bow? I'm like, these guys had a lot of time on their hands in the Edo period. So to keep your students, I would assume you have to make up all these extra things. But I'm just amazed at how many times I have bounced around to different martial arts, never disliking them. I just left. It could have even been for personal family reasons I
I
left.
didn't burn any. I didn't burn any bridges. I just
I
was
never
like,
burned a bridge. I think that's the key. That's
yeah.
the key. And so many people burn bridges. They walk around with a torch in each hand, and then they expect a favor later. I'm like, no, to me, I don't know if you agree, but I think it's how you were brought up by your parents, pretty much. You don't burn bridges. You don't go on the internet and attack people unless they're attacking you first. You might have to, but it's very different. What do you think?
Well, back then we couldn't because there was no internet.
No, you have to send a pigeon.
But one of the things that really bothers me, which I've removed myself from social media as much as possible, except for just
Art.
posting things relevant.
Yeah.
I've seen people in Japan become hamon or excommunicated for things they typed on the internet,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
mocking someone else, and you know, it's so bad right now, and I think it's just lack of manners and lack of shame. I really don't think it's taught in our culture. Obviously generalizations are never accurate, but we lack this concept of shame. Whereas, something you say or do can reflect on your own sense of honor. And a student is a reflection of a teacher, just like a child's a reflection of a parent. To see how good of a parent is, I shouldn't have to look any further than the youngest child. To see how good a teacher is, I shouldn't look any further than their students. Their students will tell me everything I need to know about the teacher. And when you have somebody, start this BS online, they're reflecting on their teacher, their school, their art, themselves. And it's, in Gendai Budo, I don't do any martial art past 16, 15, but in Gendai Budo, it's all about you. Iaido isn't the study of the sword. It's the use of the sword as a tool to improve yourself, to polish the heart mirror, so to speak. In Iaijutsu, Batojutsu, or Kenjutsu, there's no you. You're part of something bigger than yourself. You chose a lane. You have all the benefits of that. But now you have behaviors. You have to represent this Ruha in a positive way, a certain way. And I see these people who are in these Koryu, man, just run off at the mouth. And it's just so disconcerting. And there are many things that I see like you. I'm sure I'm just like, okay, whatever. But I'm not going to go out of my way to type something or chastise somebody. I mean, I think that's energy better spent my own training. And I get it. If you throw, and some people say, well, hey, you put videos out there, then expect to be flamed. And I just don't agree with that mindset. But the thing is, there's so much negativity in the world. We're so divided as a culture, but there's so much negativity in the world. We're coming out of COVID. And I think we should prop each other up. If anybody's studying any martial art, no matter what it is, they're making an honest, genuine effort to improve themselves in some way. Who would have a problem with that? A total jack off. That's who.
Yeah.
So if you're doing Aikido or Taekwondo, or you're doing this or that, and it's making you a better person, or you're trying to improve yourself, and you don't know, you're just a student. I have nothing. You'll find no bigger supporter. Now, I think some people, if you're doing, let's say right now that you're doing a style of swordsmanship that I think is meh, but I think what I do is better. I wouldn't mock and chastise you, because what they say is a 20-ton ball of granite is hard to get rolling, but once it's rolling, you can push it with a finger. Yeah. And the fact that you started the ball rolling by your interest in Iaido or whatever it is, I might say something like, hey, Todd, I do something very similar. You might like it. Why don't you come check it out sometime? Very positively enforcing that it's awesome that you're studying something, but check out all these other things. And that might get you interested. You might say, you know what, the stepping stone was the Iaido, and that's led me to Koryu, and now I'm doing something else. But to just mock somebody or say, because I also do Tenshin Ryuhyo, and people are just like, that's stage fighting, that's this, it's that. And just they're so attacking. And if somebody starts, a lot of people make fun of Taekwondo, take one's dough. But I've met amazing martial arts instructors in Taekwondo that I think are just a great, amazing people. And I've learned how to teach better from watching them teach. It's not what they were teaching, it's how they were teaching it. So I can learn from everybody. But even then, if somebody starts with Taekwondo and at least they're started, and we know, you and I both know this, that the solution for mental health issues plaguing our society right now is martial arts. Cultivates the mind.
Yeah.
It works that whole mind, body, spirit element. And boy, it can really change a person, give them confidence. They irradiate confidence and change the people around them. I have 2 severely autistic students that after 3 months, you wouldn't even believe they're autistic. I've seen it. So, if anybody's doing any martial art, I have a lot of respect for them because they're trying to improve themselves. So it's easy to get lost in, the negatives, but I think we should be propping each other up and supporting each other instead of tearing each other down. And that's kind of where I've changed personally. I stopped teaching for 12 years. So I took a big break. I had a very large dojo. I took a break because I was just the only way I could really focus on myself. I was burnt out. I've been teaching solidly since 1990, and I was just burned out. And where's my own growth? And I needed to focus on myself. So I took a big break. I always would say everybody wants to be a teacher, but what happened to learning something first? And here I was realizing, you know what? I still have a lot to learn. And so I needed to practice what I preach. And I stopped for 10 years. I stopped over 10 years, almost 12 years. I stopped teaching and just focused on myself, focused on training, figure out what I wanted. Because I'm changing as a person. Obviously, I'm getting older. And what I wanted in 1985 is different than I wanted in 2015. So I took a big break, and now I'm coming back to it and having fun and finding the vigor I did when I discovered some of these arts in the 80s. And I'm in a much different place. So what I see, my contribution, I think, to my community or people interested is just to latch on to any type of martial arts, any type of Budo, whether it's Gendai or Koryu, it doesn't matter, and use that as a guiding path into improving yourself. And now I've found that I'm much more open. I used to be very, very closed-minded, and I recognize that in myself, but you have to free yourself from the burdens of versions of yourself in your past you had to create to survive. Maybe there's versions of myself in the past I had to create to survive, and I'm not okay with that now. So I learned from that, and so once you throw away the guilt from versions of yourself that you don't really square with, you really liberate yourself. And now I see it from a totally different vantage. Like I only charge $12 a class now. I offer no ranks and no titles. Your name's your rank, and you're good enough. And I hate how typically Americans really become rank mongering egotists. And once you free somebody, they're not being judged by someone else. They're not chasing a piece of paper. Man, it is so amazing. And in the same amount of time, I feel my students are significantly more skilled than somebody chasing a piece of paper with that same amount of experience and time. So when you free yourself from that, there's no bigotry, there's no prejudice in the dojo. The certain ranks won't work with other ranks. There's no judging, there's no ego. Everybody just comes and explores together. And we say the study of martial arts is the exploration of another culture's history, language, culture, philosophy. But the mindset is exploring, discovering. And I think if you take that mindset, you don't worry about rank or titles. You're just exploring and discovering, and so that's kind of the methodology that I use now, is this the mindset of exploring, discovering. I tell my students, I have no expectation beyond what you have for yourself. Just have fun. And Hatsumi Sensei said it best. He said, if it doesn't make you happy, don't do it. Yeah. I tell my students, take a class. It's only $12. If you don't like it, your $12 ain't going to make or break me. So enjoy it. And you pay as you go. Life happens. You come in when you can. I've got some students that only come in once every 2 weeks, and there's room for that. And on top of that, there are people that have lost a lot. My wife and I buried 13 people from COVID. And there's a lot of people of tremendous loss coming out of COVID. And everything is stupid expensive. And I don't want the lack of affordability to prevent somebody from having a life-changing experience. But some people, they just need a place they can be amongst people that think just like them. I call it a third. You've ever heard of third space?
Yes.
It's that third space, where you can be amongst people. You're amongst your tribe. These people get you. You don't have to put up any fake barriers. You go as hard in the pain as you want or not. Nobody cares. Nobody judges. You just come have fun. And you're in a different place for an hour and a half, and you forget about your problems. And for some people, they'll never get good with the sword, and I'm okay with that, because if they just come just to be amongst like-minded people. They like to wear kimono and hakama and wear two swords, and they like the history, language, culture, philosophy aspect. That's fine. There's room for that. So you don't fit the arts fit you.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing because a lot of martial artists are trying to fit this art that doesn't, they're trying to do something that's not them or trying to mimic their instructor, trying to fit something. No matter where you are, there you are. The art should fit you. I have a 73-year-old student. I have 14-year-old students. I have students that with severe disabilities from car crashes, and they do great. I have autistic students. Everybody just trains together. And it's very rewarding when spontaneity occurs, when you just see students support each other, or you have no rules. You have this very open mindset, and people are just working with each other. And because there's no ranks, there's no ego, and everybody learns together. And it's like amazing. So I've discovered something very different from how I used to teach. And it's very organic, but it's more fun. That's the thing. When in the 80s, when we started training this, it was all this fun. We loved ukemi. Let's jump out of a tree and do it again, like you were saying. It was really, really fun. And you get older, and it's not fun as much anymore. There's all this drama and all this baggage and luggage. I just want to bring it back to the fun aspects. Take ego and out of it.
You're doing that. I mean, this is what I do too. I think there's a stage that's natural where you have to go through the politics and the junk. And my students say to me every day, why are you still doing this? It's not because of money. There's no money. It's the fun. It's the fun. You get to roll around on the ground. We say that. I say, when we're doing ukemi or something, I said, who's getting dizzy and nauseous? Oh, I said, don't. I said, you know how many people are in a hospital right now that would kill to be able to roll like you are right now? So when you go up and down the mat, it's a privilege to be able to roll like that, because most people in a wheelchair would kill to have two legs to roll. And the dojo, I always say, is a church without religion. Just what you were saying. People come here, they're positive. They had a bad day at work. They get yelled at home, whatever it is. They come here, they work out. Sometimes I'll just stop a class and I'm like, were you thinking about paying your mortgage? Well, no, I was being punched in the face. Were you thinking about that girl you didn't ask to prom? Well, no, a sword was coming down at me. That's the point. You're living in the moment. It doesn't matter the label of martial arts. We have people from martial arts that come to this dojo that have quit their martial art. It doesn't matter. I'm like, teach me what you know. You did Aikido. I want to learn how to flow better. You did Taekwondo. How do you kick that well? I want to learn how to do that. You do jujitsu. Show me that ground move you just did. It's a place where we can come and, like you said, be yourself and have fun no matter what your age. That's what I love about this stuff is the taijutsu, the body art. It fits to you. The samurai would kick from the waist down. We don't have to do high kicks. You can do whatever you can. Some people come in with a bad back. I've had back surgeries. You probably had injuries off the chart. So you have to adapt, not to the martial art. It will adapt to you. That's what taijutsu is so good. That's why I'm so attracted to it, is because it allows anybody to do this. It doesn't matter your size or age. We have, like you said, people almost 80 years old that train here down to age 5, and they all seem to get the same benefit: happiness, joy, sense of purpose, sense of goal, positivity, you name it, respect, strength, confidence. The kids that come to me and say, Mr. Norcross, I stood up to a bully today. I'm like, oh my gosh, this art is working. This is my job, your job, our job is to be stewards to pass it on to the next generation. Because you'll agree, these arts are dying, most of them. They're dying with the internet because everyone, keyboard warrior, thinks they know it all. It's like, no, you got to get in the dojo. What you were saying about people online being cruel, everyone's cruel with an avatar. When they show up at your dojo, they would never talk to us that way. That's just the way of the beast. I say to people, teachers will come to me and say, why aren't I getting more students? I'm like, well, you mentioned politics online, you mentioned religion online, you bashed the dojo across the street, you did this and that online. What do you expect? If you say you're for this person politically, you're going to lose 50% of your business. You don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion at your dojo, because you have 5, 10 different cultures coming to train with you. So to say Merry Christmas doesn't fly. You have to be very careful what you do. And
some of these American instructors, they think they're a life coach, And it's like, after your classes, you knock back a fifth of Jack and have relations with the female students. Maybe you're not much of a life coach. They're
Yeah.
paying you to learn martial arts. You're not their life coach. You're not their life mentor.
Yeah.
Like, sit down. There's a lot of that. But you have to learn how to be a teacher.
Yeah.
Like, it's really difficult to teach one thing one way, and the stupid people, the smart people, and the average people get it at the same time. Just like our society, there are people who are smart, people who are not as smart, and people who are average. How can you teach one thing one way where they all get it?
Yeah.
The smart people still feel challenged. The people that are not that smart, they get it. People in the average understand it. And everybody wants to teach, but what happened to learning something first? So for me, learning how to be a good teacher, and to give somebody tools and to show them how to use those tools, and to sit back and watch them build something is like a tremendous reward. It ain't the $12 that's doing it for me.
No.
It's showing that you couldn't do this, and now you can, and now you just realized you can do it. Now the training begins, because you are better than you think, because there's your problem. You think too much. You overthink. Look what happens when your body just does. Get that? Now keep going. And it's very rewarding when there's that crossover with the student. So yeah, just like you're saying, that's why I do it. It's really, really fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy watching somebody build something,
How did you meet
arts.
John and RVA? How did you guys get together?
We've been friends for 15, 16 years. His wife is Japanese as well. It's a pseudo small Japanese community here. My wife does calligraphy. His wife does translation rather. My wife and I have a Japanese translation interpretation company, but his wife also does translation. And we've been friends for a long time. John is pretty amazing martial artist. I mean, John's teacher is Yip Man's nephew.
Wow.
So you want to talk about pedigree? It's pretty awesome. Now, John is very humble. He says, because it's Ip Man's nephew, it doesn't necessarily mean he was very good, and just because he's, doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I think that's pretty amazing. But he's pretty amazing martial artist. John's an amazing person. He has brought so much of the Asian community together. And John and I both hate prejudice and bigotry, and we think the more we learn about each other, prejudice and bigotry fall aside. And John is responsible for bringing so many people together. Asian, non-Asian, he doesn't care. That he's really become a cornerstone of the community, and he started
the community. I mean, I think you two your channel is getting bigger and bigger, and I'm like, this is what we need in the sword community. We don't need gun guys attacking sword guys attacking gun guys. We need people who love swords that will get into martial arts. It's a way of funneling people in because it's so damn cool. And you guys are doing absolutely right with all your lives. Yes. I just, he never mentions, I don't ever hear him mention the martial arts much in his live streams. That shows you how humble he is, because he could probably go on for hours about that, right? But he just says, I do this.
Yeah.
And, he actually promotes you more, and you promote him. This is, again, what we need more of is not the spotlight on me, but look what he's doing. Look what she's doing. Let's get these people involved in our community, because I find that if you can get someone to pick up a sword, whether it's through anime or whatever, a movie, and you get them involved, they don't need a $700 sword from Cloudhammer. They just need a $50 or a Boken, like me, a golf club, and I went out in the corn, and that's what got me inspired. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's where you go from there.
So true. And it's, the RVA Katana thing is a hobby for us. It's not a full-time gig. So everything's unpolished and unscripted, and we're nerds. We're history nerds. We're fantasy nerds. John's also a very celebrated fantasy writer. He's we're of the same kinship. We love martial arts. We love culture, and our RVA Katana is like a fun thing for us. And we don't make a living from it. We don't have to. John has an acupuncture clinic here in Richmond. My wife and I have a Japanese translation interpretation company. So we don't need any money out of RVA Katana. And
your prices reflect that.
And people get all pissed off. They come to our store like, this can't be real. How's this so cheap? Is there something wrong with this? They're like, no, we don't do this for a living. But we don't do this for a living, stupid. You know what I mean? They come in, they're like, oh my God. We're like, right, we just want to get people awesome swords. We've been there. There aren't any sword shops anymore. There might be some knife shops with a POS wall hanger on the wall. So it's literally fun for us. And we say all swords matter because all cultures matter and all cultures have a sword. And you know, you learn more about the sword as a lens to another culture's history, language, culture, arts, food, philosophy, religion. And the more we learn about each other, the better. But when we were 10 years old, Todd, you couldn't teach us history. But if you said today we're going to learn swords of Africa, I think we'd be like, yo.
Yeah.
So we love how swords can get the narrative started. And we love that. We try to have swords from everywhere. Obviously, the name is RVA Katana because that's a recognizable type of sword. But we have Chinese swords, Tibetan swords, swords from all over the world. It's just getting harder and harder to source them because post-COVID, no big sword buying market. A lot of the forges didn't make it. There's some consolidation going on. Cost of the raw materials is 10 times what it was pre-COVID. But so we get what we can when we can. And we run it as a fun thing, you know. I mean, the website could always look better, our lives and our graphics and stuff, but we like that kitschy kind of like we're just regular guys.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be some faceless corporation or this big company trying to hawk goods. We do this for fun because we don't have to do it. So our whole like, and you say, our, you know, we make fun of each other. That's just our personalities, and so this is like just a fun hobby release for us. That our dumbass hobby is turning into this huge thing. The amount of swords we've sold every year, it's like hundreds of percent improvement. I mean, just in 2024 alone, we're double the sales from 2023. So double, so more than double. So it's just kind of getting insane. But I think people relate to us. They see that we're not trying, and we're still learning. We've met so many people. That's what, so I say swords bring us all closer together, maybe not in the best way, but we've met so many cool people. I mean, David Baker from Forged in Fire came to the shop a few weeks ago and hung out for like 3 hours. And he loves us because we're not trying to be someone we're not. We're just honest. We love it all. And we've met so many cool people through this process, and we've learned from them. And there are a lot of things that, you know, I've been studying sword art since the early 80s. And there are things that I just thought I knew that I didn't. And
me too.
We've met so many people that were like, you know, and the way they educated us because they liked us, because we were endearing to them. They were like, you know, you kind of got this wrong. You might want to check this. They weren't like, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You suck. They were like, you know, I see where you're going with this, but it's actually this. Here's some information. John, were like, wow, we were today years old. We learned, and they saw that we were willing to put our pride in their back pocket and still learn. And I'm 54 almost. John's a year younger than me, and we're still learning. You're going to learn to the day you die. And I think people have latched onto that and said, you know, these are practitioners. These guys really love this. They're trying to disseminate more swords, get more people into it. And that's why John and I say, people say, what's your favorite sword? We always say, whatever gets you into swords.
Yeah.
$50, $70 sword, if it gets you into swords, the amount you own is a formula. It's N+1, where N is the current amount you own. You're not going to just buy just one. So whatever gets you into it, if it's an anime sword, if that gets you into it, makes you happy, you know, more power to you. We want to get people, you know, maybe tell some friends. But the more people, we get more swords in the zeitgeist, you know, more people are into it. Swords represent different things to different people. Like, you could have a crappy day, man. You see that sword on the wall, remind you, what would a warrior do? Wouldn't be a coward or a victim, would find that center, you know, find a calmness before assessing the problem. We've always made problems worse by emotionally acting out to them too soon, or assessing or getting into them, engaging them too early. Maybe a warrior would find that calm, you know, and then assess the problem and realize engagement would make the problem worse, create distance, you know. So I think swords are inspirational. They make us think about those things. And you said it, swords represent the elements of a warrior: honor, integrity, focus, discipline, character, and respect. You know, respect isn't demanded or commanded. It's earned, which means you can be lost. You know, people walk around these streets and think they should automatically respect. Like, we've lost respect for people we once respected. So I think swords remind you inspirationally to present yourself in a way where you're garnering respect and not losing it. And plus it's heraldry and heritage and history. I don't care where you're from, what your race or ethnicity is. There's a sword in your history. Tell me about that. Let's talk about that. You know, maybe it started with the sword, and now I'm talking about your language or the wars of, you know, now I'm getting farther away from the sword. It started learning about, you know, a particular African tribe through their swords, and now I'm learning more about their culture and their language, their philosophy, their religion, their food, their arts, you know. So we love how swords can get that started. Plus, it's just fun. Swords are fun. You put a sword on your wall, talk about that. Yo, what is that? Tell me about that. So we think there's room for all of it, and that's kind of what drives us, is just our passion for it. And so you see it, and it's genuinely honest. It's not fabricated. Like when we are on lives and we do our cutting, we get so many people like, your cuts suck, or that your Hasuji sucks.
Oh, you always get that.
We're just trying to show this $100 sword cuts really well. We're not trying to, we're not being tested. You know, this isn't Bapodo. We're just having fun. Sometimes it's hard for people to get that. And, you know, they're very, critical, but we don't care. We just have fun. I mean, we just blow it off.
You
Hey, more
know that
negative.
the people that are critical have a lot of time on their hands, right? I always say the people that you never see a sword teacher, you never see a dojo owner hardly ever criticizing because they're busy. They're busy running a dojo, they're busy living. If I was really sad and unhappy, I would take the time and attack someone because I'm not feeling my life is going well. I would type the most evil thing. You're doing this wrong. You might have a bit of knowledge. You have no experiential knowledge. It's all theoretical, but I'm going to type that and show this guy send. And then they hit send. There's no regret there. And it just blows my mind at the people that are showing up at the dojo are my heroes. Why? Because they're doing it. They're taking the time out of their day, their time. They're out there on the mat getting someone Saturday got a black eye. You get hurt. You get all kinds of things on the mat, but you get fun and experiential knowledge, not theoretical. It's not from a book or a movie. You're out on the mat. So anyone that says anything online, first of all, if you're good, you would never comment because you're learning. We're always a student way before a teacher. I have to learn. I cannot be a teacher without being a student first. And to see someone online attack someone, I'm like, I just feel sad. I'm like, that person is really upset to have typed that out. And I'm sure with your live streams, you guys get that. I mean, I see you guys enter the same questions 150 different ways so patiently for everybody
The
because
swords
you
are upside
know if
down.
that person is the first one.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you something because there's always the same top 5 questions that people ask. So maybe you can destroy some myths here.
Sure.
People always say Tamahagane is going to be the best at everything because obviously it's beautiful. It has the historical significance. Go
Beautiful steel.
ahead and dispel the myth of modern steels and how far we've come.
So, it comes down to an understanding of geography and resources. Japan has had really, really poor raw resources. The rest of the planet had far superior raw resources. So what makes Japanese swords so amazing is the fact that so much time, energy, effort, blood, money, sweat, tears is put into taking crummy raw materials and folding it over and over again to beat out the impurities and spread the carbon till after an exhaustive amount of time, energy, and effort, you're creating something that's pretty amazing. That's the amazing thing is what they're able to create with really crummy raw resources. But if you look at the raw resources from other parts of the planet, it ain't even close to comparison. And Tamahagane is a beautiful steel, but it is by far the strong. I mean, we've come a long way since the 1300s in technology and craftsmanship and engineering and materials. And the Chinese
steel, yeah.
Yeah, the Chinese have been making weapons literally 1,000 years longer than the rest of the planet. No person right now on this planet with 2 legs is smarter when it comes to metallurgy than the Chinese. Period. End.
Yeah.
They are just masters of metallurgy, and they've had far superior raw materials. So their weaponry is significantly better. Tamahagane right now injecting heat into a differentially heated sword is going to be significantly less stronger than a mono steel, a through hardened mono steel modern sword. To give you an example, T10 is a pretty amazing steel. It's a tool steel, a little better than your 1095 carbon steel. The tungsten gives a little better edge retention. A little strong. Now it's a brittle steel, it's tool steel. So if your Hasujis aren't good, you do run the risk of bending, chipping, or breaking it like anything else. However, there's using a measurement that determines the impact resistance of steel. It's called a joule, Joules, and it's used for other forms of measurement as well. T10 will shatter at 10 to 12 joules. Tamahagane will shatter at 6 to 8 joules. Cloudhammer's S5 will shatter at 186 joules.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, and that's why we always say if you got to have the best sword for the zombie apocalypse, it's going to be Cloudhammer's S5. I mean, Shadiversity is trying to break a rock, and we know how people feel about Shadiversity, but it doesn't matter. He's still trying to break the sword over a rock, and he's breaking the rock. I own 2 of them. They're incredible swords. So
I pre-ordered one, as you know. Yeah.
Nobody else really can do S5 like Cloudhammer because it requires a certain knowledge of heat treatment that other forges don't have the faculties, facilities, or wisdom to do. A lot of forgers stay in their lane. They do what they know they can make. And there's a lot of stuff out there. It's just a hunk of steel with a pretty handle. And non-practitioners think it's awesome. But those of us that actually practice, we feel it and we go, yeah, not awesome. But tamahagane we think is beautiful. A true katana has to be made from tamahagane. So if it's not made from tamahagane from a Japanese perspective, it's not a true katana, but we don't care. Do we love them? Yeah. Right now, if you wanted a Shinsakuto, a freshly minted sword from a current smith, you're paying about $13,000 for a bare blade and about $3,000 to $4,000 on top of that for your koshiraek. So now are you going to take that $17,000 sword and go beat the crap out of it? Probably not. Yeah. So it's a beautiful sword. It's an art sword. But, we rewrote the Constitution for Japan after World War II. And part of that Constitution says you can't rearm yourselves. Well, last time I checked, Jack, swords were part of armament. So what the Japanese did is they circumvented that and said, oh, swords aren't weapons. They're art. They regulated the industry. There can only be no more than 300 smiths, I believe. Right now it's like 183. And smiths can only make 2 blades a month. So if you're going to limit how much swords somebody can make, you're basically limiting what they can make for a living. So that's where we get $13,000. Now you can buy tamahagane swords in Japan for as low as $5,000, as low as $3,000. But you're, again, spending thousands of dollars, and you definitely run the risk of bending, chipping, or breaking them. Modern steels are far superior. It's hard for people to grasp this. And we get this a lot. Well, they want to know where it's made.
Yeah.
Where are these made? And as soon as we say China or Taiwan or Vietnam or Thailand, they're like, well, that's not a real sword. We're like, you don't really know what you're talking about. And
tell them to stick their arm out and you'll cut at it and they'll let you know if it's real or not when they pick up their
Chinese make cheap stuff and they make amazing stuff. There's a whole store in America for cheap Chinese made stuff. It's called Walmart, but they make some really high-end stuff. Just the American market typically doesn't demand higher end stuff. We used to make awesome cars and TVs. Now we don't. Yeah. Right. So the Chinese make amazing stuff and they make cheap stuff. But a lot of the swords we're getting, the forge partners we have, they make pretty amazing stuff. And, modern steels are definitely, to get back to your point, I digress, sorry. Modern steels are significantly more durable and stronger than tamahagane. The aesthetics aside, tamahagane is still beautiful. We still love it. We still own it. We still seek it out, but maybe for a different purpose. If you're learning, you're cutting and you're just getting into cutting, maybe you don't want to beat up a $15,000 sword. Maybe you want to buy a $200 or $300 sword and beat the crap out of it. Because at the end of the day, if you break it, you're only out a couple $100. You're not out some amazing heirloom that you would have passed down to your children.
Don't you think that the secret to all this stuff, again, it doesn't matter if it's martial arts or swords, same, but I think what I sense about you, what I love about you is you're a traditionalist and progressive all at once. I think if you're stuck in one camp or the other, it can't be made in China. It can't be from this type of steel. I'm not going to adapt to modern steels. And at the same time, you can't be stuck 600 years ago. If I look at going back to Budo and stuff, with Mr. Hayes, he was considered very progressive for creating Toshindo, but he's also the most traditional person there is because he's honoring the tradition by making it accessible to the 21st century. And I think the key to understanding any martial art is to be both progressive and respect to the tradition. So you're respectful to the tradition, but you also adopt, like the modern ground fighting with jiu-jitsu, you adopt things to keep it alive. Otherwise, you're just a scroll collector and a kata collector, and it dies on the floor. Your dojo shut down. The kids aren't interested in it because you didn't make it exciting enough, because you're not having fun when you're training, because you're too traditional. And you don't, when I was in Japan, you weren't allowed to ask questions. In America, we're all about questions. Everything is, why do you do this? Why'd you put your foot here? What's the purpose of the ashi there? What's the purpose of that? I think that inquisitive nature gets lost as we get to become adults. As Hatsumi says, you must train with the eyes of a child. It makes perfect sense. Don't lose fun. Don't lose the point of life is short. Don't worry about too much. Just train and have fun, get better, be a better person, and then go out there and be a light to the world.
It's funny you say that. I tell my students almost every class, to appreciate where we are, you have to study how we got here. Yeah. There's more Americans than Marvel movies and mac and cheese. Understand our history, and you'll understand us more. The more you understand why in Kukishin Denru, why we hold our sword a certain way because we're wearing armor, we're on the battlefield fighting multiple opponents. Once you understand why the kamae are so deep and you wear on real armor and you do your kata and you're like, wow, you have that eureka moment. Now you are free to adapt that to your own culture, however you see fit. But by studying how it was done, by appreciating and studying how we got here, now you're liberated. You're not just like Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do concept. You can't ever say you just do Jeet Kune Do. Jeet Kune Do is a philosophy to free yourself from the binding elements of a linear martial art. Once you understand the history and how things changed and the why, now you're free to adapt it. And so that's a big thing for me, is to appreciate where we are. You have to, and that applies to everything. Our culture, to appreciate where we are as an American, you have to understand how we got here. You know, a lot of cultures take. They give nothing back to world culture. Look what America has given the world in the last 150 years in technology, medicine, engineering, you know, education, science, philosophy, and art. Look what we've given the world in just 100 years alone. And some of these cultures, they get to start with the mobile phone and the internet. They didn't have to wire their country with copper wire for 100 years to be drag kicking and screaming to wireless technology. They start with the mobile phone and the internet. And you're going to talk smack about America? What is your culture given the world? Sorry, your art isn't enough. Yeah. So, you know, I think once you understand, I'm digressing again, but once you understand, I think only we can talk smack about America. No one else can. But once you understand our history, I think you appreciate us more, you know, and just like martial arts or anything else. The more you understand about where it comes from, the more you are free to adapt it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, the people that come in this dojo, the quiet ones are usually the best fighters. The ones that are most filled with humility are the ones that have seen the world. The ones that are judgmental have never left their state or their town. And I just see people that come in from all over, and the ones that attract me that I want to be around are the ones that have been in the military, so they've seen the worst in the world. So they go about their life just trying to enjoy their day as best they can. They've seen the worst in humanity. And I'm like, you are my sensei, teach me something. And then I see the older people that have traveled the world, that have seen different cultures, that have been to the slums of whatever country you want to name. So they don't feel privileged about America. They're just happy to be here. They wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the world, but they bring this quiet wisdom to the dojo. And those are the people I'm like, please teach me. Why are you this way? Why are you so non-judgmental? Where have you been that you're so cultured? What languages do you know? It's so clear to me the way that you carry yourself in society, that you have traveled the world. And I think if I told young people anything, a little piece of advice on how to become a better person, travel. Travel, get out of the country and talk to people from other cultures. Don't live in your little bubble and your little...
Change your perspective, right? Change your perspective.
Meet more people. That's what college is supposed to be about. Shouldn't be a business. It should be about going there and getting your ideas challenged and beaten back into you, so that you leave your hometown, you go out into the world, then you can serve it better. And a dojo's kind of like that. We come here from all over the world. People come from all over. They train here and they leave better people. You and I are now friends because I just saw you online, and I'm like, it's like two magnets. This guy's like my brother in New Jersey. You know, I want to know where my mom was in 1970. Did she go to New Jersey? Maybe you're my brother. I don't know, you know. But these are the things that martial arts and many other things bring people together. When I saw RVA Katana, I'm like, this is a store that's a magnet for people. I can see your store, your organization, and I have a feeling it's going to become your full-time job if it's not already. And that's the best. You're going to be a massive influencer, and I mean that in the most positive way, to the next generation of young people who don't know anything about swordsmanship, anything about martial arts, but you both and Mark and the others, I think, are really going to pull people in by the thousands with your channel. I just want to see it grow and grow and grow.
I would appreciate that. We already making an impact. You know, we were there. We were there and we knew nothing.
Yeah.
And we always appreciated when somebody didn't chastise us, but they educated us. And even with our experiences, we still have that innocent child mindset of learn, you know, just want to learn more. So that we're still that way. And hopefully people get that. We think a lot of people do. And we're just happy. We've met so many cool people. I mean, I I have students that are SEALs. I have students that are police officers. We have customers come in from, we have like 3 or 4 military bases within a couple hours of Richmond where we are. And we have military guys come in all the time, police come in all the time, and they come in and hang out. So we create that third space. We don't care if they buy anything from us. We don't really care. Like we're not here for slinging blades. Just come hang out, talk history, philosophy, culture, talk about swords, martial arts. And we have so many Fridays is amazing. So many people will come to our shop and just hang out for an hour before they go home after work. And they love it. They just come in, just talk about martial arts. I'll put something up on the TV, Kuki Shinryu armor fighting, or put, some anime or something, and we'll just talk. And it's just their third space. And they just like, I love this shop. Please never go anywhere. And it is so rewarding. And when it comes time to buy, they actually come to us and they tell people, go see these guys. And that's kind of, I think, where our sales have just increased. I think, if you just treat people with respect and integrity and you're honest and genuine, you don't have to try to be something you're not. And people will read that. And I think that's what John and I have continued to do. And Mark, of course, Mark's amazing too. So, but we're all practitioners. So I think people really latch on to that. Like these guys really practice what they preach. They actually do this stuff. So we come at it from a different perspective versus maybe some vendors that aren't practitioners. They don't understand what practitioners look for. And as a result, they're just selling products. It's widgets. They're just selling widgets. Whereas we just want to get people awesome swords that make them happy.
Do you do you guys see yourself, like, I don't know what's next to you at your shop, can you expand? Do you ever talk about getting a new place when the lease gets up, because you're running out of room you have like 600
Sure.
more?
Yeah. So, I'm building, and I've been building more racks. Yeah. So John owns the building. So it's been John's martial arts school for, I believe, 11, 12 years.
Wow.
He owns the building. So we're the big fish in a small pond, and the reason why we don't charge more for our swords is because we don't have to. We don't have a rent. We don't have to pay any of these things. John already owns the building. And so we can sell stuff and make, like, we have a lot of swords, man, that we make $25 on. And that's the most we make on them. We look at what did it cost for us to bring this sword and put it on a rack. We look at all the sunk costs, $25, and any money we make, we're just going to buy more swords and build more racks. And that's kind of been our methodology. And we're so thankful for the HEMA guys, the historical European martial arts guys. They've really educated us on, for Japanese stuff, we like to have a good, better, best. But in the European stuff, there's kind of really inexpensive stuff and higher end stuff, but nothing in the middle, because they do so much blade on blade combat that the middle of the road stuff will bend, chip, or break. So we were going to almost carry a bunch of stuff that wouldn't have sold. So we're so thankful that we had a community to educate us on it. So we're just, I'm sure we're going to outgrow it. I mean, we already would be selling some armor. There are other things we want to start selling, but the space limitations becoming the issue. My classes, I teach in the same space. So every morning I roll those racks out and I'm having 16, 17, 18 people, and I just don't have room. So it's my Naginata classes. I teach outdoors at a park now, which reminds me of the 80s, and I love, and my students love it too. Like, I never would have thought about training martial arts outdoors in a park. I'm like, what are you talking about? We did that for decades. They love it, but I mean, I could only get like 3 people swinging in Naginata in that small place, and now I have 20 people out in the park. So, but yeah, we're growing is something we've been looking at. John and I have actually looked at some places. There's some. If we move, is going to be a place that's 4 times larger, and we want to carry more lifestyle stuff. The old Bugei. Remember the old Bugei catalogs didn't have just swords; they had samurai lifestyle stuff.
Yeah,
that's kind of where. Once you buy your sword from us, unless you're going to buy another sword, what else are you going to buy? So we want to have some stuff like that. We're importing tatami in big rolls. We sell a lot of tatami as well. So we want to get more into that, the stuff in the sphere of the sword. Right now, because of our limited space, we're just trying to build our brand, figure out what's good, make some mistakes while we can learn from them and not have to pay exorbitant rent, learn what lines do well, develop a customer base, develop some good friends in the market. And then at that point, I think when we're ready to move, we'll be a much stronger footing, a stronger foundation.
I can see in the future, I don't know if it's true, but organically, if you keep growing and you guys don't kill each other and you remain good friends, I can see a facility where you teach swordsmanship classes. You might even have a place where you have guest instructors come in, or you might even have a facility where people can come overnight and you have a weekend seminar on Kukishin Bojutsu.
We do that now. I have a friend in Japan who does Tenshin Shoden Katori Shintoryu. He'll come back and do a seminar. I have different I want to expose my students to all the things,
That's
do
great.
all the things, you know, and I love having, even if you don't do it, at least you understand a different perspective. I love having, we just had a big Nihonto guy come in, a big collector of Nihonto, give a free, he brought in hundreds of thousands of swords, did a free thing for our customers, totally free, just showed all these swords and talked about history and the sword. So we're not doing this for a living. It's fun. And we want to get more people into it. So yeah, we're already there, but obviously we had a larger place. We could do more of it.
This is why
That's
it's so important not to have an ego, right? Because if you have an ego, your doors stay shut and you don't allow people to come in with new ideas. It's so important to open your dojo up to different martial arts. We've had guys from jiu-jitsu train here and teach us things that our ground game was weak. So we invited this person over to show us this and that. Everybody grows, everybody gains from it. There's nothing to be gained from attacking each other online or being just an ass all the time. Everything is gained by community and by pulling things together. The world, you know, people think I'm online, I'm connected. No, you're more disconnected when you're online than when you go out and sit in your backyard and watch the grass grow. That's just the way it is. So anything we can do to get people off their devices and into the dojo and sweating and smiling and succeeding, we are doing what our ancestors commanded us to do, which was, whether it's a sword or a golf club or a baseball bat, get out there and use your body and move around and have fun. Because again, life is so short. I think you and I, being 54, you know, there's not much left. So we have to.
where you're trying to sit in front of us.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah. And I think the introspection, I can still watch. I was watching an interview the other day with Sho Kosugi, who I don't know, he's what, almost 80 now. And
wow.
I look at the wall and I still see my Sho Kosugi Ninja Toe. I have the white one from Enter the Ninja. I have the one from Revenge of the Ninja. Those are my favorite swords. They're
Oh,
not
Franco
Olympic.
Nero.
Franco Nero, all of those. Why? Because I'm 10 again. I watched Shogun. I'm 10 again. And to go back to that innocent lifestyle where the world, nothing mattered in the world except you and your sword. I just, I
You
go
know,
back and watch those goofy movies. You know, I'll watch Enter the Ninja and Revenge of the Ninja, and I'm just smiling ear to ear. I know it's cheesy junk,
I
but
watch them all too.
it not become, because after that I will go out in the cornfield or go out and put on my ninja suit and swim in the river and avoid the police. And this is the stupid stuff you do as a kid that's lacking now because people don't even want to go outdoors anymore.
What do they say? You know, the documentary Budo had a line in it that I still use. I teach it to my students. And the line was, it forever impacted me. The line is, the enjoyment of pleasures comes at the lack of hard training.
Yeah,
And it really impacted me.
yeah.
You think about that, you know, you sit in front of a video game, playing video game, PlayStation, whatever, you're doing something, you know, you're not training, you know, and when you take your life in Budo and do this, you become a different person. There's a lot of people look at Budo as an activity. On Mondays, I do canasta. On Tuesdays, I do kickball. You know, I do this on Wednesdays, and on Thursday nights, I do martial arts. But when you start looking at it not as an activity, but as who you are, like when I get up, I still brush my teeth and take a shower and get dressed and eat breakfast like everybody else. But I train for a half hour before that. I've augmented my life. I tell my students now, if you know, add 5 minutes to your life, train at least 5 minutes every day. Let me ask you a question. If you don't have 5 minutes to dedicate yourself every day to something that you enjoy, that brings you happiness, that you know will help you become a better person, who are you living your life for? And it's really impacted my students when I ask them, you don't have 5 minutes for yourself every day. You can't get your butt out of bed 5 minutes earlier. Who are you living for? And really has made them go, man, you're so right. I always have the excuses. I have a wife, I have a life, I have kids, I have a job. I got 5 minutes for myself every day. You won't have March 4th, 2024 ever again. Yeah. It's gone. Yeah. You know, the sun's going to rise tomorrow like it did today. Every day you take that sponge and you put it in water and you squeeze it and not a drop comes out. But you're going to bed with water still on that sponge. Squeeze it all the way. You know, when I tell them that, and that line from Budo, the enjoyment of pleasures comes with the lack of hard training, it really has a profound impact on them. But they've never watched any of these movies or documentaries, or they've never even seen Shogun. So they're, you know, there's almost like decision paralysis or information paralysis. There's literally so much out there that the messages get lost and people don't know and they don't know where to go. They have no direction. But when we were younger, there wasn't a whole lot of information. So anything that came out, we extrapolated everything you can from. We squeezed it till it was dry. Now we didn't have YouTube. Imagine where we'd be right now if we had YouTube in '85. You know,
Yeah, you had this book. This is all we had back then, you know.
that was it. I remember that
This
book.
was our internet, and you would scale through the pages and just you'd rip things out, make posters out of them. You go outside and you do everything wrong. You'd hit yourself in the eye with a shuriken. You would do everything on the planet to try to make up a dojo because you didn't have any legitimate teachers back when you were 12 years old. This is what I wanted to ask you, and I know it's a really silly question, but I'm dying to get your answer because of our age and interests. I want you to name me the best Sho Kosugi movie you've ever seen. Go. And why?
I was going to say Pray for Death or
Pray for
Black
Death.
Eagle. Black Eagle was good because it was him and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
Turn on the Van Damage. I know a lot. Was it Revenge of the Ninja?
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite ones. The one I went back and watched more frequently was Revenge of the Ninja. Enter the Ninja was good. I really would have wished Mike Stone would have continued with it before they brought in Franco Nero, because Mike Stone was an amazing martial artist. Franco Nero really wasn't. Ninja the Three, the Domination was kind of hokey. But there was that.
We all love Lucinda Dickey, though. I mean,
the blow gun into the pistol scene on the golf course was something we never forget. When are you going to teach me that, Sensei Norcross?
And the bending of the golf club around the arm. I mean, what got me the scene that we laughed at, because we actually saw that in the movie theater, was when at the end when I think Sho stabbed the guy and he spun into the dirt, but he had a wakizashi through his body, and we're like, wouldn't that wreck his body? He was spinning in the dirt with the sword. What happened to the sword? Even as kids, we were like, this is so dumb, but we love it. We went back and saw it again or rented it.
Suspend disbelief. Nine Deaths of the Ninja was really good too. I love them all, but that and I think Revenge of the Ninja is probably my favorite. Yeah. I mean, with the new Ninja one that came out, the recent one where he was Ozunu, that was pretty good too. I thought that was great.
I didn't like that one at all.
No,
I mean, I like part of it, but the CGI effects and the
CGI
so dark, I couldn't see what was happening with my old eyes. I'm like, why is this a Michael Bay film in martial arts? You know, I'm like, I couldn't see anything. Sho Kosugi was great in that. I just saw him do an interview, and I'm like, why didn't this man get the respect he deserves? Why wasn't he in more films? Because he could have transitioned and done anything. And the last decades he hasn't done much. I'm like, oh, what a missed opportunity where you see so many of the martial artists that brought an entire generation to love the samurai ninja. Why isn't he getting more?
He should have been in more. Yeah, there's some Japanese stuff we've seen. His kids, Kane and Shane, are really involved.
Yeah, I guess that's what all you can ask for is your kids are becoming the next generation of leaders. When you see the new Shogun, do you still have a love for the old Shogun with all its faults and its stereotyped things? In other words,
I don't compare them. I try not to compare them. I appreciate Shogun for what it was. It was the first adaptation of James Clavell's novel, which even that, if you read the novel, you know, it's not, but, you know, obviously concessions been made for the screen. But I thought with Toshiro Mifune, come on, Mifune, I thought it was still amazing for what it was. Now, you know, what do they say? The best stories have to be retold for future generations. And people always say, why'd they remake that? They didn't have to remake it. No, you don't understand. The story is so good. It's worthy of being retold. Yeah. And every time they retell it, they're going to change it a little bit, you know, to adapt it for a new audience. So I'm okay when they remake RoboCop. I'm okay when they remake movies of my youth that I think they shouldn't be made. It's already perfect as is. I get it. The best stories have to be retold. So I'm okay if they retell Shogun. I'm not going to compare it to the old one. I'll just appreciate it for what it is. And boy, so far it's pretty damn good.
It's really, really good. Yeah, like that old series had such an impact on me. I can't ever again separate the two. So I'm going to judge this new one. So far, I think it's an A+ production. Really, really good. I can't wait to see where they go.
The costumes are amazing. You know, here Sonata is a perfectionist, so I think I can't wait to see some of the battle scenes because he's as much of a perfectionist as he is. I mean, I watched some of the behind the scenes stuff they put on YouTube, and they hired people to teach you mannerisms from that Sengoku period. So how to walk, how to move. I mean, he spared no expense to bringing in people that taught that they whole elements specifically from that time period. So it's like when you're hiring people that just for that, I think this is going to be special.
And to have the maid who was a real shinobi, like do the assassination scene, I'm like, that is not like the first one, which I love, the ninja in the original Shogun, but I'm like, that is real shinobi when it's the maid that's the assassin. I thought that was fantastic the way that they did that. I don't know if that was in the book, but if it was, they did it spot on.
Now, did you see Shinobi no Ie, House of Ninja on Netflix? Did you watch that?
Yeah, I've seen two of them so far. Two of them
I thought
so
that
far.
was pretty good. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, that of course that's more like a comedy drama, right? More tongue in cheek, but
My grandmother says something awesome. She says, "Ninja, we're not ninja, we're shinobi. Ninja's a new term." I was like, "Bingo!"
Yeah.
Bam.
Was
Love
she
it.
the one stealing all the stuff out of the store? Or is that the mother? The mother that's pocketing all of her groceries every day. I'm like, oh my God.
That's the mother keeping her skills up.
You know what I'd love to do if you're open to it for a stream in the future is to get both of you on, right? And I'd love to do, if I could send you the questions, but like the top 5 or top 10 Mythbusters about swords. Because what
We
we
love
can
that.
do, we can get you two in and gauge it more, maybe even do it in the store where you could show us. And if I
Do that.
send you the questions, why do they always ask this question about the steel? Why do they ask this question about made in China? The top things that you know, because you get 100 different questions. Why are the youth asking these 10 same questions? And then bust them all and put it out there so that you can refer it back. Go watch this video. It goes over all of these questions and myths.
Let's do it. I'm open to it. I know John would be so, and we'll do it from the shop where we can just pull it off a rack and say, "Boop, here's
Oh,
here's an antique Nihonto. Here's a modern one. Look at the differences." Yeah, we'd love to do that. We do that already. So love to do it with you. So yeah, just let us know. We'll do it.
now, before I leave you, what do you tend to do like with your free time? You said your wife's Japanese, but today's Monday. You said you have off. What do you do for fun? That's not, I know it's hard to get out of our martial brain, but do you do anything?
Yeah, so I usually get up and train. I train at 6 a.m. There's a big river flowing here in Richmond called the James River. At
Mm.
6 a.m. every Monday, I walk out to the rocks and train Bato Jitsu for about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Wow.
Come back and chill, and I'll train in the afternoon. My wife and I'll do some translation. She does interpretation gigs for nationals that come here to U.S. She'll do interpreting. I do a lot of training. I consume media, watch a lot of stuff. Yeah,
And
I'm
rest.
a bit
Yeah.
of a hustler. I do a bunch of stuff. I'm still growing. I still have a lot to learn. The journey is more important than a destination. So I've always looked at ranks and titles as destinations. The journey is more important. I'm just going to keep going until I die. And there's all this great stuff out there now. So I'm just trying to get more out of it. I put a lot of time. I have a Discord channel. I make a lot of videos for people. I give them away for free. I do an online class every Saturday at 1 o'clock on my Discord. It's totally free. And I have 5 or 6 instructors that teach different Code U who now take my class, and they're having difficulty with some of their students as the students are hung up on something, or they get a left-handed person. There's nothing in their art to help them overcome this, and the students are getting frustrated. And I have a ton of drills called kunren, and they'll say, can you teach me some stuff? And I give it to them. Like, come take my class online. I'll show you some of these. And 2 weeks later, they're messaging me saying, my student doesn't have the problem anymore. The drill helped them 100%.
Wow, good.
Will train with you. I'm like, yeah, of course. So I see it as a way of me kind of giving back to a community. But so I do that on Mondays. I'll make videos and stuff, just have fun. So training is still a big part of my life. So it's, life in Budo here. So I still
Yeah.
do a lot of stuff on my days off. Yeah.
I don't think we can separate them. Like I come in, I work 6 in the morning till 8 at night. It's a long day.
A
And
long day.
they don't know that the first hour of it is me either stretching or getting a sword out or meditating in front of the kamedana. Of course, the administrative stuff, you can spend 10 hours on that too. And a lot of answering questions from YouTube, things like that, working with the moderators. There's so much to do that even though we have dojo, we have sword training, we have learning about the sword, you can spend 3 hours just trying to work out kanji, that 5 different ways that this person says it and the other person says it. So interpretation, I take vast notes before a class, before I teach, so that I always give the students a handout. Here is what we're working on tonight. Here's what the kanji means. Here's the period in history it came from. This is an armor-based technique. This one is not. They were wearing a tachi, not a katana. You got to change it up. This is why it works on horseback. This is why it doesn't. I think that that is so exciting to get up in the morning and be thrown into this cultural void and to have to figure it out for your students by 6 o'clock today. I love that. Sure. I don't know about you.
Oh, I do. It's part of my daily life, and I'm launching a new channel soon. Actually, I started already.
Good.
Where we love camping videos. My wife and I love camping videos. But I'm going to do a channel where every 2 weeks we're going to go camping. But there's going to be a training element, so I'm going to train
Yeah.
solo mountains and have videos on that. And then we're going to eat. She's going to make Japanese food, and then before bed, I'm going to review a Budo book on a Japanese book on Budo that it's inspirational to me. So it's going to be like a train, camp, eat, Japanese eat, and book review. So I'm going to try to add a little bit of that to kind of put some content out there to have some fun. So
Wow.
that's what I do on my Mondays, is put that kind of stuff together.
Look, you need some time just to rest.
Well, you do got to spend some time in nature. I'd make sure I do that twice a week, 3 times a week. I'm in nature. I go to the forests or park. You got to be in nature. I need a good hour every couple of days just to be a living thing. Appreciate being a living thing. You think when you're in nature, my mind opens like a parachute. You get so worried about what's going on in your life. When you're in nature, just realize, you know what? I'm a living being for this period of time. It's so rare to be on this speck of dust at this time period. Appreciate what I have. Don't worry about what I don't have. Just keep going.
I
It's
think
important.
about that yesterday. I was out on the porch because it was like 65 out yesterday, and I'm sitting there with our chickens. We have 6 chickens, and we're trying to gate off the porch because they crap all over the place. But I'm sitting there with 6 little pea-brain creatures, and I had the best time. And they're sitting there. They let me pick them up. I fed them some cheese and stuff. You just have the best time with the most harmless little animals. And I'm like, I can't think of a better thing I'd rather be doing right now than sitting with 6 little dumb little chickens, feeding them cheese and having them poop on my sneakers. There's nothing more fun.
And that's when your students say, Sensei, where did you learn this pecking technique from? And you say, well, craft some story. A master came down from the temple and I watched some chickens peck at some scratch at the dirt. And that's where I came up with my 3-clawed scratching technique.
Well, I want to thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me. Great talking to you. I'm sure we'll talk again.
Oh God, it's like literally I'm talking to a brother in the mirror right now.
We could talk for hours. I'm sure we could talk for hours.
We could go on for hours about one movie and just into exhaustion. Plug your channel now, RVA Katana. Tell us about it.
So RVA Katana is our videos are, we're obviously on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and TikTok. Our videos are educational. We love educating. We love, like you say, busting those myths. We want to educate people on new things that are entering the market. There's some amazing things happening right now in the industry. More players are involved. Prices are going down. New technology is being invented. So we want to educate people on what also is new. We love Nihonto. We love the classical and the old too. So we oftentimes will showcase some old things. John loves educating. We just love that. It's our passion. And we've gotten some stuff wrong. We make videos where we got it wrong, and now we want to educate. So that's a big point. Is just educating. So that's primary what really guides our videos, our channel. It's just not trying to hawk swords. I don't think you'll see a single video where we're trying to sell something. As we're just kind of educating people. And the feedback we get from people is oftentimes, I learned so much from your stuff. Or this is another point of input. Never enable critical judgment on any topic without at least 3 sources. And maybe sometimes we're one of those sources, and that's pretty much an honor for us. So we just enjoy it.
Well, I want to thank you for your time, Scott, and tell John and Mark and the others that we said hello. I feel like I know them too. Someday I really want to make a trip to your shop. I think that'd be great.
That'd be great. Let us know when you're coming, man. We'll have some fun.
Yeah, I'll have to stay overnight, and maybe you can I'll buy you a beer or something and we'll just hang out. That'd be cool. But in the future, I'll be in touch, and then I'd love to do that Mythbuster thing. I think people watching will love to see that because
email me your questions and let's set it up, and John and I would love to do it. So let's make it happen.
All right, my friend. Well, it's great talking to you, and I wish you the best in your success. And I hope you have a great day. Okay.
You too, my friend. Take care.
All right. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.